Sea Cucumber. It was founded in 2015. We're one of the only dedicated facilities in Nova Scotia that produces dried sea cucumber. Sea cucumbers aren't well known in Nova Scotia, but they're quite a delicacy in the Chinese market. The Halifax Partnership has really helped us commercialize quicker and more efficiently. Halifax Partnership got us connected with Nova Scotia Community College's engineering department. They can help our current equipment run more efficiently. They were even able to get a grant, so there was no upfront cost to us to get this assistance. Halifax Partnership made the connection, and it's a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Halifax Partnership's 2020 Annual General Meeting. My name is Ron Lesfrance, and I'm chair of the Halifax Partnership Board of Directors. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today, and we have this hall well filled. We're delighted with the turnout, but we also have upwards of 300 people joining us on Zoom. So a bit of experimentation here. We thought it was really important to get back to in-person meetings, but also to make sure with the health protocols in place that everybody who wanted to be part of our annual general meeting had the opportunity to do so. So I acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I'd like to start our time together by welcoming my friend, Debbie Eisen, to offer a prayer. Debbie?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here this morning. I always think it's a great day to start off a meetings with, to praying with the Creator and praying for good days. So if you will indulge me, I would like to offer a morning prayer. If I could get everyone to stand, please. I would invite everyone to pray in their own way. This morning I will pray in my way. Ani bojo nanatemakus, indajanakas, nomayanganawe, and Ishnabe Batwana. Creator, we thank you for this beautiful sunshine and fresh air that you have given us this morning. The fresh air to help cleanse Mother Earth of her toxins, and the sunshine to help each and every one of us here ignite fire in our bellies to move ahead with yet another day. We pray, Creator, for those men and women who are sick with this disease we call COVID-19. We ask that you give them strength and bravery in order to beat this. And we pray for those men and women who are working tirelessly helping those who are sick and stricken with COVID-19. We pray for our loved ones who are sick and need your help and strength and guidance in the days ahead. And for our loved ones and family members and friends who are preparing themselves for their final journey to you. We pray, Creator, that you give them strength and bravery so they will not be afraid. And Creator, for those men and women who work tirelessly day in and day out here in Jabukta, we pray that you keep them safe. And I ask this morning, Creator, that you come into this room with these men and women who are here for this meeting and help them and guide them with strength and clarity for the information that they are about to receive. And lastly, Creator, for our veterans, those men and women who are far from home protecting our way of life here on Turtle Island. We pray that you keep them safe and free from harm until their tour of duty is complete and they return back to Turtle Island and back to the loving arms of their family and their friends. I would just like to share one last little teaching with you before I leave. And I was looking at it this morning and I thought it would be something that I think I would like to share with you just to help you start your day in a good way. Just to remember that you can't eat beauty. It doesn't feed you. You can't rely on how you look to sustain you. What actually sustains us, what is fundamentally beautiful, is compassion for yourself and for those around you. That kind of beauty inflames the heart and enchants the soul. Miigwech Walalan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie, for those very inspiring words. I know they will make our event today very successful. So before I begin, I want to recognize Honorable Lena Diab Metlich, who's with us today, Minister. As you may know, Minister Diab is the Minister of Immigration for the province, and congratulations on the success that you've engendered over the last number of years. And also Minister of Acadian Affairs, as well as Ministre des Affaires et de la Francophonie for the province. So welcome, Minister Diab. And also with us is Halifax's famous, I think fair to say, MP and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Andy Fillmore. Andy, thanks for coming. You're such a fixture at so many of Nova Scotia and Halifax's great events. So thanks for coming to us today. On the slide behind me, you will see today's agenda. Right, there it is. Our intention is to conclude today's meeting by 10:30. And again, joining us today, both in person and virtually, we've got a great combination of Halifax Partnership investors, a number of key partners who share our vision of growing Halifax's population and productivity. We have our board of directors, our very talented board, and our Halifax Partnership staff who have done an absolutely amazing job over the last several months under the leadership of our esteemed CEO, Wendy Luther. I also want to extend a special thank you to Halifax Partnership Board member Corey Bell for Lindsay Construction support in making this in-person meeting possible. Thank you, Corey. And today's theme is Reimagine Halifax. We are all aware, and Debbie touched on this in her inspiring words, of the impact of COVID-19 has had on our economy over the last 6 months. I was just talking to Ross Jefferson about the impact on the tourism sector. Today, we want to report on the partnership's last fiscal year, but also what happened to Halifax since June, including a look at how our businesses are reopening and how things are proceeding. We're all working hard to make Halifax an excellent place to live and work for everyone. And so part of our discussion this morning will focus on how we make sure our city's recovery is inclusive. It's equitable, sustainable, and progressive, and gets it back not to where we were, but to better. So I think the COVID-19 has opened up some of the vulnerabilities that we see in society, and it's a delight to see Sarah Napier here today from the United Way. And so it's all about taking care of all of our citizens as well as our business community. And no one speaks more passionately about Halifax than its Chief Magistrate, Mayor Mike Savage. And I now invite the Mayor to come forward to share a few words with us. Mayor Savage.
Well, good morning, everybody. Bonjour, tout le monde. Gwe and Jalasi. It is a great pleasure to be here. And it's kind of cool to see each other in person, right? I want to thank Wendy and her team for making this happen. I also want to thank the hotel. I think we all know that COVID has kicked the crap out of the hospitality industry. And so to Jeff and his team here at this wonderful hotel, I want to thank them. I mean, look around, and how does a hotel make money providing such wonderful individual service to people? We have to get back as much as we can in a safe setting to seeing each other in person. We can only do that with the support of hotels. And speaking of that, I want you to say hello to a friend of mine, Judy over here. Is that her behind you there? So this lady's worked at this hotel. First when it was a Sheraton, and now it was a Marriott, for 33 years. Now, she's retired, believe it or not, but she's come in to give a hand during this time. And if there's one thing we've learned, that there are people who perform essential services that maybe a year ago we didn't think were that essential. People in the pharmacies, people doing the driving, people who clean the sheets at the hospitals. And the work that this lady has done is very important. And we should always keep in mind that when we talk about essential work, there's a lot more people doing it. And not all of them making as much money as they probably should, but doing an amazing job. So I want to thank them. Great pleasure to be here. I thank you, Ron, President Wendy, Andy Fillmore, who's here, Lena, my counselor, Sean Cleary, who's arrived doing awesome work on behalf of the city on economic development. There's other counselors. I know I saw Kevin Skillin, who is the honorary consul for the U.S. Sir, we are great friends with the Americans. They are our best friends, even when we disagree with some of the things that their administration might do. But we thank you for the great work that you do in the city. Captain Lewis as well, who is with us over here. Sean, who is the new base commander at Stadacona. Corey Bell, I understand, Corey, you helped organize this. It's appropriate because this hotel is approximately the same size as his house. So it must have been easy for you to help get organized. Thank you for what you do to lead this city in a lot of different ways, the work that you do. So thank you to everybody. We are gathered here today, as my friend Deb pointed out, on the unceded, the traditional land of the Mi'kmaq people. This part of the land known as Jabuktuk, Great Harbor. And if you don't know why, take a look out the window when you leave this room. It is nice to be back together, despite the limitations and the necessary precautions. I want to thank each of the people in this room, everybody who's in this room today, for the personal and professional sacrifices that you have made to make Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Atlantic Canada among the safest places on the planet right now. You see the Dieta cartoon yesterday? It's pretty cool. With the car driving into Nova Scotia and the welcome sign saying, "Welcome to Nova Scotia, fewer COVID cases than the White House." Kind of darkly humorous, but also true. You know, we can't afford to keep the world at bay forever, but so many of us are loath to burst that Atlantic bubble as we watch case counts rise around the world and in other parts of our own country. This has been a bruising time, and it's nowhere near over, but I firmly believe that Halifax will demonstrate its resilience. I think we already have. We will again welcome newcomers and tourists from around the world. Ross Jefferson of Discover Halifax, who has been head down on this from the very beginning with his industry partners, including this hotel and many others. We will continue to be a center for life sciences, medical, ocean research, and with Winston Morton and so many other people, we have become a major economic and tech hub. We will continue to be the center of shipbuilding excellence, regaining the successes of our port and our record-winning international airport. We will support startups, scale-ups, and entrepreneurs in the remarkable Halifax innovation team. Now, I know Wendy and her amazing, hardworking, bright folks at the partnership will share this conclusion. We have the fundamentals right. The partnership, as you may know, I don't think everybody knows this, but during COVID, when the world froze in place, 10 new companies have chosen Halifax to expand to. 10 new companies just during COVID alone. Film crews are here because they have seen a sort of safe place to shoot with the expertise, the production companies that they need. You know, the Mooseheads. Somebody said they saw the Mooseheads recently. Krista, was it, they saw the, did they win that game? Okay. Overtime, all right. They're playing to smaller but no less enthusiastic crowds at the Scotiabank Centre. Kids are back in school, the port is bustling, and more people have returned to offices. You know, I was happy to see the partnership launch the Google-powered Shop Here platform to help small businesses increase their presence on a new digital Main Street. I think, Sean, it was Quinpool Road that kind of early on in the pandemic came up with an online shopping center. There's great innovation that's happening here. I think we can all appreciate these local businesses that worked so hard to meet our needs, even when they couldn't have people visit their shops. So, even as we direct our efforts to economic and social recovery from COVID-19, we continue to work towards the broader goals of sustainable and just economic and population growth for Halifax. We have work to do, but together we're making strides, and I am so proud of this community. I don't for a second want to minimize the impact of COVID-19. I don't want to underestimate the impact of the world's economic upheaval. But when I look around this room, I know how many people also joining us remotely, and I know that Halifax can meet their challenges. These past few months have confronted us with other uncomfortable truths. The pandemic has shone a harsh light on the inequities within society, but equally true here at home. I want you to get to know the work that the partnership did under the guiding hand and wisdom of Carol Ann Wright, with Irvin Carvery, who's here with us today, Dolly Williams, to undertake the African Nova Scotian Roundtable to Economic Prosperity work. As we build back the local economy, we must always ask ourselves what we can do to ensure that we are not leaving people behind, that we create the kind of city and community where everybody finds opportunity. You know, I'm so proud of the partnership. I remember a day, it would have been late March at the very beginning of this crazy time of upheaval. And I was in my car driving towards the Emergency Operation Center. There were so many unanswered questions. And I was talking on the phone with Wendy Luther. And her realistic, but yet optimistic view that we can put together a plan and work with partners to survive COVID had a very big impact on me. She was already thinking about how we deal with this, in spite of the fact that there were so many questions. You know, my father's life had many lessons for me personally. One of them was, don't let the things that you don't know stop you from doing the things that need to be done. I want to thank you, Wendy. I want to thank the board, the staff of the partnership for the amazing work they've done during this time. Less than a week ago, I was on the phone with a mayor from a city in Germany that wants to establish a closer relationship with Halifax. And one of the first questions this mayor asked was about the Atlantic bubble, which he had Googled when he started talking about Halifax. It was pretty cool. But even during COVID, there are cities reaching out to us that want to emulate our success. You know what? I think we can all be very proud of that. So I want to acknowledge the investors who make such a big difference. They make the partnership what it is. A truly public-private partnership committed to advancing Halifax as one of the best places in the world to live and to do business. Thank you all for being with us in person and online. I wish you the very best. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Walalia.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for those encouraging words. I'm just going to make a few brief remarks before we begin the annual general meeting. But it's been quite a year, and speakers so far today have reflected on the challenges that we've been through as collectively. And this time last year, you know, I was thinking back to being at Pier 21 and hosting the jam-packed event that was the annual general meeting at that time, and feeling that you know, we were, you know, unstoppable when we had the meeting last year. And so we were well on our way then to building to a crescendo and wrapping up Halifax's economic growth plan for 2016 to 2021. And we were very proud of that plan, and we were very proud of the progress that was being achieved. That plan established a really ambitious long-term vision for Halifax. We were looking at population growth to 550 people, a $30 billion GDP by 2031. And by March 2020, we were actually on target to reach our population goal and tracking extremely well against the GDP target. And we were getting prepared to renew that plan over the next 5 years. Like every other organization globally, the pandemic changed everything, not just our progress, but a rethinking of the way forward and what we should be progressing toward. And as a result, our partnership with the principal shareholder, Halifax Regional Municipality, Jacques Dubé, is on our board of directors, and our public sector partners, and importantly, our investors, because the Halifax Partnership is a public-private entity, and our investors put their money in to work constructively with the partnership on growing our economic development opportunities and supporting our city growth. And so we seamlessly pivoted. When the curtain came down in March, we seamlessly pivoted to develop a new plan of action to respond to and to address Halifax's new and evolving needs. And so the economic growth plan work really transitioned into Halifax's economic response and recovery plan. This plan recognizes all the disruption that we're experiencing, but it also opens the door for considering how do we go forward, inclusive growth, and the need for innovation, including social innovation. Mayor talked about the vulnerabilities that were exposed, and they were certainly front and center in our thinking relative to the plan as well. This plan set out a framework and a series of actions to respond to this unprecedented situation. It's a situation, as the mayor referenced, that has had differential impacts depending on the sector. Some sectors have been considerably more robust than others through the pandemic, and it continues to create challenges both for you know, businesses, but also families, and but it also has created opportunities. And the Halifax Partnership, the mayor's reference to the number of new companies who sought to establish business here during the pandemic, is a testimonial to the strength and the value proposition that the Halifax area and our economy and our support services bring the partnership with other businesses and so forth. The last several months have been very much a journey of discovery for the Halifax Partnership. And through that process, we've turned to many of you and our investors for advice, input, and ideas. Under the leadership of Wendy Luther, and very, very capable, hit the ground running, baptism by fire with the advent of the pandemic, Wendy thought, well, I've got to get oriented to this new gig, and you know, all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and she had to reinvent her life, her team, and has done a great job with it. But we, during the spring and winter, or during the winter and spring, we hosted a series of CEO forums, and those were really effective in securing feedback, input, and ideas how to shape that response and recovery plan. And I'd like to take a moment to also to celebrate the leadership and engagement of the staff team. So it has not been easy for this staff team as it hasn't been for any. Our public sector partners have been there throughout this to support the partnership. And most importantly, our key stakeholders and investors have been very much at a time when, investors were facing their own challenges. We received tremendous support, both financially, morally, and otherwise from our investors. And I also want to thank, it's a pleasure for me as board chair to work with a talented and very professional board of directors. And I want to thank the directors. We've got a very collegial working relationship, and we get a lot of work done. You'll hear today from a number of the committee chairs, and these are truly ambassadors for our city and our province, and have more than proved their mettle during this this disruptive period. As we have worked through this time, a hallmark of many of the conversations that I've been witness to personally has not been just the need to get back to where we were. It's about how can we fix some of the challenges and some of the issues that have been laid bare by the pandemic. And so it's really about getting better. And so as we, an annual general meeting is the dawn of a new year for an organization. And we want to continue to hear from you in terms of how we're doing and what we can do to make sure that we are giving the right kind of leadership to the depth of the challenges that we're facing today. And that's what today is about. The centerpiece, the theme of today's meeting is about reimagining Halifax. And so you're going to hear from a really stellar lineup of key folks who are going to both speak to the challenges, but also speak to the opportunities going forward. And so I want to thank everyone. And I think we're transitioning to NeoCon. Yes. So I don't have that on my. Oh, okay, board business. Okay. So now on to the business of the annual general meeting. The partnership's 2019-2020 annual report and financial statements and the minutes for the 2019 AGM meeting, which I referenced, were made available to all attendees via email. I now call the 13th annual general meeting for the Halifax Partnership to order. I'm going to chair that meeting. Tanya Walters, our corporate liaison, will record the minutes of the meeting. We're breaking new ground here, folks. We've never done an AGM with a in-person contingent and an online contingent, so you'll have to be gentle with us. But before we begin, let me say that this is our first foray into conducting this kind of a meeting. And so I wanted, particularly for purposes of voting, I wanted to remind those joining virtually to use the raised hand icon to vote. And that is next to the Q&A icon. And I understand that it depends on what computer you're using, where they fit in the geography of the screen. But it's on the raised hand icon that you use to vote. I'm also, as we go through the motions associated with the business meeting, I'm going to pause to allow those who are, voting online to, in fact, have time to do the voting. And certainly, if anyone has any questions, you should use the Q&A icon on Zoom. So, as per the bylaws, I just as an aside on Zoom, I mean, I think we're all used to using both Teams and Zoom, and it's hard to keep them both straight. As per the bylaws, every member of the society shall be entitled to vote at the annual general meeting. There's no proxy voting. Members include investors in our society or individuals over the age of 18 years residing in Halifax Regional Municipality who uphold the objects of the society and whose name has been entered into the register for today's meetings. That includes those who are in the room today with us, as well as those who are joining virtually. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda and the minutes of the 2019 annual general meeting. And so I would pose the question, are there any changes or additions to the agenda or the minutes? And I'm going to pause for a moment to allow folks to consider that. I will now ask a director to move approval of today's agenda and the 2019 annual general minutes, sorry. Rob? Thank you very much, Rob. Rob is a partner at Deloitte. Deloitte is an investor in the Halifax Partnership, and Rob is both board member and vice chair for the board. Can I get a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Winston. Winston Morton is Chief Technology Officer at Simtech Inc., a member of our board and one of the panelists in our upcoming Reimagine Halifax discussion. You have heard the motion. Will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising your hand? And again, I will pause to allow those who are joining virtually to vote. Thank you. Those opposed? Motion carried. The 2019 minutes and the agenda for today's meeting are approved. I will now call on Monica Foster, Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee of the Halifax Partnership, to present the Audit Committee report. Monica?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Audit and Risk Committee for the Halifax Partnership, I am pleased to present the audited financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2020. As you can see, the partnership recorded a deficit of $90,000 this year, compared to a surplus of $40,000 last year. This deficit was the net result of an increase in the allowance for doubtful accounts over the previous year of $115,000, less savings that were resulting from lower activity as a result of the pandemic. It should be noted that the team continues to work on revenue collections. As stated in the financials, the partnership received a clean audit and there were no significant negative findings by our auditors. And in the opinion of our auditors, our financial statements fairly present the financial position of the association. I therefore hereby recommend approval of the audited financial statements for the Halifax Partnership for the year ending March 31st, 2020, as presented.
Thank you very much, Monica. Monica is Vice President, College Services and CFO with the Nova Scotia Community College, an investor in the Halifax Partnership, and a relatively new member of our Board of Directors. I will now ask a director to move acceptance of the recommendation of the Audit Committee. Thank you very much, Corey. Corey Bell is president of Lindsay Construction, an investor in the Halifax Partnership, a member of our board of directors, and the chair of our ad hoc development committee. Can I get a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Way Mason is a council-appointed board member. The Halifax Regional Municipality is our principal shareholder and a key and founding public partner in the Halifax Partnership, a public-private partnership. Is there any discussion on the motion? And certainly if you are joining virtually, please raise your hand so we can unmute your microphone. If you're here in the room, please put a mask on and step forward to a microphone. Any questions? I'm looking at Brittany back in the corner to see if anything is coming in virtually. Okay, hearing none, will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising your hands? That includes those in the room and joining virtually. Thank you. Those opposed, that includes those in the room and those joining virtually. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. The Halifax Partnership's financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2020 are approved. We will now proceed with the appointment of auditors for the Halifax Partnership. May I have a motion approving the reappointment of EY as the partnership's auditor? Thank you very much, Councillor Cleary. Councillor Cleary is a council-appointed board member. The Halifax Regional Municipality, of course, is our principal shareholder. Can I have a seconder of the motion? Thank you very much, Rob. Is there any discussion of the motion? And again, if you're joining virtually, please raise your hand so we can unmute your microphone. And if you're here in the room, put your mask on. If you have a question, come up to a mic. Will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising your hands? Those opposed? And I'm looking at Brittany again. I think we're good. So the motion is carried. I would like to acknowledge EY as a founding investor in the Halifax Partnership. And I want to recognize that Travis Kent, Senior Manager with EY, is with us in the room today. Thank you, Travis. Now on to the Corporate Governance Committee report. I will now call on Margaret Brigley, the Chair of Corporate Governance Committee, for our board to provide the Corporate Governance Committee report. Margaret?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's so great to see you here in person. And I certainly also echo the sentiments of others earlier in welcoming all of those online. I'm pleased to be providing the report on behalf of the Corporate Governance Committee. For 2020-2021, we have 3 board members departing, including Hector Jakes, who has completed his 3rd and final term on the board, April Howe, who has completed 2.5 terms and will not be reoffering for another year, and Captain David Mazur, who handed over command of CFP Halifax on August 5th to Captain Sean Williams. On July 10th, the partnership issued a call for nominations to investors via email with a closing date of July 24th, and the Corporate Governance Committee met on August 25th to review submissions. Following a thorough review, I'm pleased to present the slate of directors for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, as noted in the slides. So returning members include Vesti Alpargan, Vice President, Fixed Income, Portfolio Manager and Director, CMark Asset Management Limited, Donna Altine, CEO, Time and Space Media Limited, Corey Bell, President, Lindsay Construction, myself, Margaret Brigley, CEO and Partner, Narrative Research, Rob Carruthers, Partner, Deloitte, Patrick Fitzgerald, Partner, Cox and Palmer, Monica Foster, Vice President, College Services and CFO, Nova Scotia Community College, Ron Lesbros, Managing Partner, Group ATN and President, ATN Consultants, Inc. Winston Morton, Chief Technology Officer, Simtech, Inc. Chris Ronald, Regional President, Atlantic Provinces, RBC Royal Bank. Our new members include Louis Lawin, President and CEO, Dexel Developments, Anita Swamy, Vice President, Operations, Medavie Blue Cross, and Captain Sean Williams, Base Commander, Maritime Forces Atlantic. Representing Halifax Regional Council is Wei Mason, Councillor, Halifax Regional Municipality, Sean Cleary, Councillor, Halifax Regional Municipality, and the following members have been reappointed as ex officio to the Board of Directors: Mike Savage, Mayor, Halifax Regional Municipality; Jacques Dubé, Chief Administrative Officer, Halifax Regional Municipality; and Chuck Mayad, Vice President, Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. There's also a designated seat for a representative of the province of Nova Scotia that is currently vacant. Now for the appointment of officers. The Corporate Governance Committee recommends the extension of term for the following officers to the Board of Directors: Ron Lesperance as Chair and Rob Carruthers as Vice Chair. As per the bylaws, all other appointments are effective until the next annual meeting or until their respective successors are elected or appointed. So on behalf of the Corporate Governance Committee of the Halifax Partnership, I recommend members accept the recommendations of these appointments.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Margaret is CEO and partner of Narrative Research, a founding investor in the Halifax Partnership. I will now ask a director to move acceptance of the recommendation of the Corporate Governance Committee. Councillor Wayne. Okay. Actually, Councillor, I need a motion for acceptance. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a seconder? Okay, thank you. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? I'm going to pause again for a moment. Will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising your hands? Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. I would like to take this opportunity to ask our board members to please stand up, including our new board members in the second row. I really want to thank the board members for your championship and advocacy, both for the partnership and for our city. You make a real difference. So stand up so everyone can see. Thanks very much and welcome to our new board members. We look forward to getting to know you and accessing your talents and insights. I also want to extend a special thank you to our three outgoing board members, April Howe, Hector Jakes, and Captain David Mazar. Each of those board members, I don't think any are here today, but each of them have played a really important and instrumental role. Many of you would know these board members and would know that the quality of their work is wonderful. The ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal business of the Halifax Partnership's 13th Annual General Meeting. I'd now like to welcome Pat Ryan, founder and president of Neocon International, to share his business experiences during these COVID-19 very trying times. It's a compelling story of impact, pivots, and resilience. And Pat will be followed by our president and CEO, Wendy Luther. Thank you for your patience in the disposition of the annual general meeting. Like I say, we were breaking a little bit of new ground here in terms of the way in which it was conducted, but it all went flawlessly. So thanks very much for that.
should be a slide deck. Do I just skew forward and it comes up? Oh, there we go. Great. Thank you, Wendy, for asking me here to say a few words about Neocon and what we're up to. We're a supplier to the automotive industry, and I'll get into that in a minute. And thank you to all those that are online virtually listening up. I know that Wendy and her team are mostly working at home now and getting things done to try to, I guess we're in the stabilization mode, Wendy, if I recall the way we're moving this, went from urgent to stabilization, and now we're looking to get back to the growth plans that were in place before all this craziness hit. You know, I never thought the comment, I wouldn't touch them with a 6-foot pole, would ever become a national policy, but yet here we are. So anyway, you know, Mayor Savage mentioned the hospitality industry earlier. We're in the automotive industry. We caught a break. Those in the hospitality industry, I really feel for what's gone on. You know, the worst pandemic in 100 years, tens of millions of jobs lost across North America. This hotel we're in here right now, 35% occupancy right now, 90% plus a year ago. Same across North America. Transportation, restaurants, many restaurants will never come back. I heard this morning just driving in, Ruby Tuesday, for those of you that travel in the US, I've been to chapter 11 today. Just a very difficult time all around. And I read last week in the Washington Post that this pandemic is really a cruel one. The most vulnerable have been hit really hard. If you look at the top quartile of earners, not so bad. If you look at the bottom quartile, they're losing jobs at 8 times the rate of the top quartile. How bad? We're pummeling society's most vulnerable. It's just such a difficult thing to imagine right now. So those that make the least amount of money are getting hit the hardest. So we've got to work on bringing all that back. In fact, I read in this article too, that 1/3 of the people in that bottom that lost their job will actually not get jobs again, certainly not in the hospitality. That's pretty sobering. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about some of the uplifted side of what we're doing here at Neocon. Let me give you a quick primer on who we are. This is our main think tank over in Burnside. We've got about 400 people working around the clock. We work from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, 6 at night till 6 in the morning. We're a tier 1 automotive industry supplier. Tier 1 means we're the most sophisticated supplier in the automotive chain. Supply chains for automotive go tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We're tier 1. So we ship directly to production plants in North America from this facility that we have here in Halifax. Name Neocon, Neo Greek for new, con for concepts. That was a thought at the Split Crow Pub 27 years ago, and it holds true today. The slogan, "We shape ideas," has held us in good standing as well. Here's our North American resource footprint. So you can see the bubble, the safe bubble that we have, and unless there were more cases yesterday, I think we have 3 cases here in Atlantic Canada currently. You can see that we have sales offices in California because we deal with people like Mazda and Mitsubishi and Honda out there. The one in the center is actually Plano, Texas. We do a lot for Toyota Motor Sales. But our main think tank is right here on the East Coast in the Halifax region. And we've got different R&D centers, a little bit of manufacturing outside of this area, but the primary manufacturing is right here in Nova Scotia where it was founded. That was the premise was to create jobs here. And we've done a pretty good job through the pandemic with all of that. Here's the types of products that we make. We make about 400 different product numbers or products in a run of a year, and about 8 million of those products. And we do it right here in Halifax. Some of the cargo protection products, some of the stylized products, electroplated parts that go on the exterior of the vehicle, that give it a little bit of bling, a little bit of branding. It's all pretty cool. You know, we have a saying that it's done us well, which is you shouldn't look for more customers for your products, but you should look for more products for your customers. And that mindset right now is to think about the pandemic and think post-pandemic too. Think about your grade A customers, who they are, and think about developing more products for them. I'll leave you with 4 points today, hopefully, that I can share, and it'll make a bit of a difference. But these are the products that we produce and ship. These are the customers that we ship to. You know, back in 2008, when the recession hit, we went into the red pretty quick because we didn't have as many products. We didn't have as many customers. But today in 2020, very thankfully, we're in the black, and we've stayed in the black through all this pandemic stuff. And these are the customers that we supply to. So it's a good list. And, you know, a lot of these customers are, you take Subaru. Yes, we ship to Subaru in North America, but we also ship to Subaru in Europe. We ship to Honda here in North America. We ship to Honda in Japan. We ship products as far away as Australia. Toyota Motor Sales, they have a division in Australia that we ship to. Chevrolet in Australia. 65% or so is actually right here in North America. And that map that we looked at previously, if you consider some of the ship points, 3 cases here in Nova Scotia. We ship from here to Smyrna, Tennessee, where they produce the Nissan Altima on the road. We have parts in those vehicles. 200,000 plus cases of COVID in Tennessee. We ship to Indiana, where the Highlanders made in Princeton, Indiana. We ship to Lafayette, Indiana, where they make the Subaru Outback. And there are 140,000 cases in Indiana. We do a lot for General Motors. Michigan is their headquarters. They make a lot of their mid-size full SUVs that we have products on. 150,000 cases of COVID in Michigan. So it's pretty sobering when you think about the safe bubble with 3 here in Nova Scotia. A world disrupted. You know, this is what's happened. We all get it. I think I heard a few days ago, the Halifax airport, 60% decline in traffic. North America in general, down 70% year over year. 50% of those travel tickets, by the way, are business people. I haven't gone anywhere in 7 months. I don't know who's traveled, but no one's traveling. So tens of thousands of jobs lost in the airline industry. Prediction worldwide travel, air travel, down 55%, 2020 versus 2019. That picture in the upper left, I think we saw some of that early in the pandemic when the shelves were being cleared out. I was watching one of the Boston channels, I think back in July, and I was just shocked. It was Rocco's Pizza, extra large pizza, 6 beers, and 2 package rolls of toilet paper delivered for $29.99. And I thought, oh my God, there are no rules anymore. What's happened? Our industry, our automotive industry, April, May, June, it dropped in North America about 35, 38%. And that hit pretty hard. What we did is we had an order book. As you work in the automotive industry, you get orders that are about 6 weeks out. So we immediately took our 6-week order curve, called our customers, and we flattened it out. And we flattened it out so that we could deliver them over 3 months because we knew this might go on for a bit. We shuttled our plant back to half speed, and we took all our people and had them work at half pace. But we paid them full time because we wanted to keep our team together. Industry impacted. The production plants in North America were down 6 weeks. Some, like Nissan, were down for 8 weeks. We do a lot for Nissan. So it was very impactful. Point number one that I'd like to make today. Markets don't buy anything, customers buy things. And if this was actually scrolling, you'd see that what's on the right is a video. What we did to reach out to our customers, knowing that the impact was so significant outside of Atlantic Canada. And Wendy, you saw the video that was put together, right? We put videos together for our customers. What we did, we went through our operation, our engineers, our planners, our production plant people. And for example, for Subaru, we're all saying, hey, Subaru, how you doing? We've got your back. We've got you covered. Your designing continues to go on. Your production continues to go on. We've got your back. Subaru, their head office in New Jersey, 210,000 cases of COVID. They had 35 people online for the Zoom meeting with a video. Oh, here we go. The video is cranking up now, and it's sort of showing the building, and you'll see some of the people waving. But very effective. And it was interesting when the Subaru video got over, when the Zoom meeting got over, all these people came on. They all popped up on screen, and we saw mothers who are engineers with their newborn children, and we saw different planners introducing their children, and we met pets and met everyone. It was really cool. We did the same thing for Toyota Motor Sales. Toyota in Plano, Texas, 810,000 cases of COVID. We did the same thing for Honda out in California, American Honda. And again, it was a we've got your back type thing. So point number one, customers are customers. Markets don't buy a thing, customers do. Find ways to reach out to your customers in these challenging times. You can see our production plant running on the video. Point number two, keep your team safe, keep your team safe, keep your team whole. As I mentioned, through the pandemic, we went through it. We made sure everyone was paid in full. We're in a school season now. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of the people in our plant have children, and going back to school might have some challenges. So we've been very flexible. If something happens with your child, you have to bring your child home, then we'll be there to allow you to be home, although you can't work in a production plant at home, but we will pay you. We will compensate, although your child might have an issue. We did the typical safe things. We readjusted our workspaces. We put up shields. When you consider 400 people coming and going in a building, how do you do that? Well, you're starting at 6 in the morning. Some were starting at 20 to 6. Some were starting at 20 after 6. Some started at 6. Some started at 10 to 6. And the lunch breaks and all the breaks, all that happened. So everyone stayed safe distance and came in and out of the plant very effectively. And we've had no cases, nothing. So it's been a very safe environment. Point number 2, keep your people, keep your team safe. Innovation, innovation, we're very innovative. We've a really, really cool group of people, 3D printing and all these different CAD models. We study people demographics, we get stuff done. Innovation, product innovation, process innovation, and even people innovation. During the pandemic, one of the things that we introduced was a farm fresh cafeteria, and we gave employees subsidized cards every month where they can go and get the farm fresh food, make sure they're healthy, try to keep their immune systems up, do what needs to be done. And we did all that through the pandemic. Point number 3, innovate, innovate, innovate. If you want to fall into the mainstream, you want to have all these fallback plans, that's actually not very safe. It's safer to be risky, and I don't mean COVID risky. It's safer to be risky with your marketing ideas, your innovation plans. People have heard me speak before. You've heard me say that the only 2 things in a company, in a business that add actual value are innovation and marketing. Everything else is just a cost. People management, all that other stuff, the finance management, yeah, they're important, but they don't add the value. Innovation and marketing, you've got to innovate. That's point number 3. Let me show you what that looks like. And this one I'll call point 4, which is be stealth. For us, we're competing in North America, we're competing in our global automotive industry. Be stealth. That picture on top, that's Jeff Bezos. Back at the start of the pandemic, they announced that they were going to produce 100,000 inner-city electric vans. And those 100,000 inner-city electric vans need a very creative flooring system. It was very complicated. Had a lot of different polymers, different colors. Their design team is over in the UK. It's being manufactured in Illinois by a new electric upstart company called Rivian. We engaged with them. I told our team that, you know what, let's go get that flooring. All our competitions right now, they're bewildered. They're not sure what's going on. We're all working, let's go get it. Several years ago, there was a bid here for Halifax to try to get a distribution center for Amazon. Proud to announce that we got that Amazon contract. And we got that Amazon contract, and it's tens of millions of dollars and many jobs here starting next year in Halifax. The middle one is a Honda plug-in HRV. Several products on that vehicle, we got those as well. The bottom one, a new electric Crosstrek. That's on the same platform, as they call it, as the Impreza. That electric vehicle and all the products that go with it, there were 4 products we wanted to get. We got them all because our competition was asleep. We were stealth. Innovation specifically, this is what it looks like. And I like the tagline here, finding solutions to the right problems. You've got to find solutions to the right problems. Think post-pandemic. And this was a part of what we did for Subaru. Subaru loves the earth. So what we did is we developed a recycled post-consumer product, a double layer that goes into their protection products. We kept 500,000 pounds of essentially pop bottles at a landfill. So we put them in Subaru products. They'll be marketing it in their vehicles. Subaru produced 680,000 vehicles in the US last year. We produced over 800,000 parts for Subaru last year. Subaru loves pets. We're developing a product of pet in-vehicle applications, and we're proud to be introducing those next year. There's a spill-proof water bowl that you can see in front of you. For some reason, my tongue is getting big in my mouth. I'll finish up. I see my time is coming to an end here. But yeah, so Subaru, pet-friendly, find solutions to the right problems. And this is what you call COVID fatigue. When I saw this slide, I said to our marketing manager, what is this? He goes, I finished Netflix and I was trying to be creative. And so here you go. I said, you finished Netflix? He goes, yeah, I finished Netflix. So anyway, yeah, pandemic will do that to people. So, Wendy's heard me say this before. If you're not challenged, you won't change. If you're not challenged, you won't change. And if you change nothing, nothing changes. So you've got to change, you've got to think post-pandemic. And I left 4 thoughts here. One was markets don't buy anything, customers buy things. Look out for your customer. Be innovative, be innovative, be innovative. Find new ways to get things done. You've got to be innovative. Take care of your people. Keep them safe, keep them whole. And the 4th is be stealth. And I think Mayor Savage announced there were 10 new companies that set up here during the middle of the pandemic, while other cities that are really impacted aren't having all that done. Be stealth and get things done if you can. So with that, Wendy, those are my comments. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning. I'm Wendy Luther with Halifax Partnership. Hello to everyone joining us in person and online today. Thank you, Ron, for leading us through our official AGM business, and to Pat Ryan for sharing your story about Neocon's pivots during COVID-19. Pat is one of the business resiliency stories featured in our 2019-2020 annual report, aptly titled Reimagine Halifax, which is available now for you to view at halifaxpartnership.com and linked in the briefing package you received this morning. I encourage you to take a look through the report, both at the successes Halifax Partnership and Halifax experienced last year, and at the economic outlook for our city moving forward as we continue through this COVID-19 economic recovery. We are living a part of that recovery today by having a portion of our attendees here in the room with us and demonstrating our adaptability by having many others turning in virtually in real time. And thank you again, Corey, to you and Lindsay for making today's meeting possible. Joining the Halifax Partnership team just over a year ago and leading through this unprecedented time has been rewarding and challenging. Looking back on the 2019-2020 year truly feels like a different time for Halifax. Before we knew anything about COVID-19 and how it would close our borders and impact our businesses, Halifax experienced a banner year for economic growth, and Halifax Partnership had a successful year in helping our businesses thrive and our young talent connect to opportunities in our city. Our investment attraction team, led by Nancy Phillips, helped 16 companies establish or expand operations in Halifax, including Decathlon and Warehouse Transport Group, and with our partners Nova Scotia Business Inc., Wattpad, and Access Capital. Our smart business team, led by Jason Gidry, supported more than 450 companies in accessing the resources they needed to export or commercialize, such as Atlantic Sea Cucumber Limited, which has been able to secure funding and expand operations. We launched Halifax Innovation District, led by Miriam Zittner, and in partnership with HRM, launched the Halifax Innovation Outpost at Volta to help startups and scale-ups improve their products and services by connecting them to HRM's expertise and assets. Ian Monroe and our research team provided the most up-to-date economic information on our community, including the annual Halifax Index, demonstrating that no one knows Halifax like we do. In collaboration with HRM, Carol Ann Wright played a key role in the African Nova Scotia Road to Economic Prosperity Action Plan, developed and owned by the ANS community to advance economic development and community priorities. The plan was endorsed by Regional Council on September 22nd of this year. Robin Webb and her labor market team helped businesses connect to international emerging talent. Last year, we celebrated 10 years of connecting recent graduates and immigrants to opportunities in Halifax through the Connector program, presented by RBC Future Launch and the province of Nova Scotia. And through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, we enabled over 100 businesses to hire skilled international talent that is bringing new perspectives to their workplace. Our marketing and communications team, led by Allison Gillen, supported all of these programs through our multi-year integrated marketing strategy. And Ruth Cunningham, Karen Reinhart, and Tenny Walters ensured our organization ran smoothly from a corporate and operational perspective. And thank you to my Halifax Partnership team for your dedication, agility, and resilience over these past many months. As we celebrate the success both Halifax Partnership and Halifax enjoyed in 2019-2020, we can't ignore that the last few weeks of the fiscal year began a new reality that is continuing to affect us. As Ian will share more about shortly, we expect that we'll continue to see the impacts of COVID-19 for the short to medium term, but Halifax Partnership is committed to ensuring nothing less than a vibrant and successful Halifax. In fact, our banner year for population, labor force, and GDP growth leading up to the pandemic has put Halifax in the best possible position to bounce back quicker and stronger than ever. Thank you to Halifax Partnership's Board of Directors for your support and guidance during my first year as President CEO, and to our investors, our Team Halifax, for your unwavering belief in the potential of our city. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Ian Monroe, Halifax Partnership's Chief Economist, who will share an economic update on the COVID-19 impact in Halifax. He'll be followed by Ross Jefferson, President and CEO of Discover Halifax, who will give us an update on the tourism sector's plan for recovery. Thank you, and over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Wendy, and good morning, everyone. I'm here to provide a quick update on Halifax economy, and obviously that has to be discussed in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. This morning, I'll touch on a few key variables and describe both the pandemic's impact and our recovery. I'm pleased to announce right here and now the launch of a new portion of our website, which we're calling the COVID-19 Recovery Tracker. And the slides that I'm going to show you this morning are drawn from that site. I invite you to visit at halifaxpartnership.com. This new site is a partial fulfillment of one of the actions specified in the COVID-19 Economic Response and Recovery Plan that was adopted by Council back in May. Before I turn to the other slides, let me quickly mention the two headline targets in our existing growth plan. 2019 marked the best GDP performance we've had in many, many years, with a growth rate of 3.1%. To no one's surprise, 2020 looks pretty ugly, and our GDP is projected to contract by 4.7%. However, 2021 and 2022 show strong rebounds with growth rates of 5.8% and 4.0% respectively. Regarding population, the most recent data that covered the year July 2018 through June 2019 showed another year of record population growth, driven by another year of record immigration. Data for the year July 2019 through June 2020 should be out in February. Given COVID-related limits on international and interprovincial migration, we should expect growth to be muted for at least the short term. As we await these annual Halifax level data points, we can look at quarterly population figures for the province. And the most recent figures that for Nova Scotia just came out last week, I believe, still show positive population growth, but at a reduced rate compared to the last several years. In these next few slides, I'll cover several data sets and a few recurring themes. The depth of the hole COVID put us in, the degree to which we've recovered, potential risks to continued recovery, and the differential impacts that we've seen across groups and sectors. Here you can see the cumulative job losses and then gains that Halifax has experienced so far through 2020. You can see the effects begin in March and bottom out in May, with cumulative losses of almost 24,000 jobs. Things turned around beginning in July, and by August, we're almost back to the level we saw in January. However, as compared to August 2019, August 2020 is still down noticeably. COVID-19 has not been an equal opportunity job destroyer. Here you can see how particularly hard hit youth were, with close to a 30% drop in employment by May. You also can see that by August, things were getting back close to January levels. Again, though, a year-on-year comparison shows that August 2020 was still below August 2019 levels, with youth employment still down by more than 10%. The shutdown of the economy hit sectors like retail, food and beverage establishments, and accommodation particularly hard. These sectors tend to have greater shares of jobs at the lower end of the pay scale, also tend to disproportionately employ women. Women also tend to do a disproportionate share of the work in caring for children in two-parent families, and there are far more female-led one-parent families than there are male-led one-parent families. As such, women face more risks of labor force detachment when schools were closed and experienced a more severe drop in employment. By August, both men and women were almost back to January levels. A moment ago, I mentioned the walloping that certain sectors took, and here you can see it graphically. This is a lot of colored lines to keep track of, but the main point is that most sectors, the ones clustered in the center of the chart, didn't suffer extreme employment losses. But retail and accommodation and food services, the pink and blue lines at the bottom, endured heavy losses and are still trying to climb back. In percentage terms, these two sectors, as well as information, culture, and recreation, are down by 10% or more year on year. Finally, we'll look more closely at households for a moment. Consumer insolvencies were actually down significantly in Q2 2020 as compared to the past year and a half. A chart of business insolvencies in Halifax, also available on our tracker website, shows a similar pattern. This, in a sense, is good news, but some analysts warn that the flood of the emergency relief funds pushed out by government over the past several months has kept consumers and businesses afloat. But as those support programs wind down or change, we may see these insolvency numbers jump back up. So that's my quick overview. Please do visit our site to see more and stay abreast of developments as new data come in. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ross Jefferson. I'm the president and CEO of Discover Halifax. It is so nice to be here in person. I'm delighted to be here to provide a brief update on the tourism industry, our recovery efforts, and thoughts on reimagining the future. Before I do, though, I just want to thank Wendy again, to thank the board and also Lindsay Construction for enabling this event to be here today. It is incredibly important and very helpful for the industry, but I think it's also a really important step to coming back more broadly as a part of the recovery of Halifax. So thank you for your commitment here today. Look, there's no question that COVID-19 has put the tourism industry in a crisis. Here in Halifax, we've seen a 71% decrease since the start of pandemic in visitation. And at this pace, we're estimating a loss of visitor spend here in Halifax of around $900 million for the year. With approximately 4,000 businesses and about 34,000 people whose jobs are tied to the industry, we know the impacts are deep. And I have forgotten my clicker. Excuse me. And I think I broke protocol perhaps as well, if you'll excuse me too. I don't know if anyone pointed that out. In response, obviously, to the pandemic, and along with many partners, we launched our recovery plan immediately following the initial lockdown. The plan consisted of 3 phases. Phase 1 response was focused on how we could support businesses affected by lockdowns and attempt to boost community spirit in a very difficult time. Phase 2 recovery, this is the phase that we're currently in now, focuses here to gain open access to safe markets and start to rebuild consumer demand. Phase 3, resilience and reinvention, is about trying to seize this crisis to build back better than before. During the response phase, we launched a series of campaigns aimed at supporting local. Our messages were designed to support the public health message of staying home, yet still trying to support those businesses that were trying to stay open. This included our shop and stay home, our dine and stay home, our see and stay home campaigns. And as the restrictions relaxed, we expanded to hyper-local marketing messages while we were still unable to travel throughout the province. We also submitted to government our opening plan for the tourism industry. And while we weren't specifically closed or officially closed, the tourism industry was effectively shut down as non-essential travel was prohibited and the bubble in Atlantic Canada wasn't yet conceived. The plan's objective was to protect our community against the importation, the spread of COVID, and by doing so, also expedite the reopening of tourism industry to safe markets. While I've heard some questions of if the bubble is a success, let me share with you a few key stats. In the maritime market in a normal year, this is represented by a single highest number of visitors at 57%. And even though they stay shorter periods, they still account for 1/3 of the overnight stays here in Halifax. Since the removal of non-essential travel restrictions and borders opened in Atlantic Canada, we've seen a steady increase towards the end of the summer and occupancies reaching a weekly average of 40%, and some peaks of higher than 50% in the weekends. Now, while that's now changing, we are exiting that peak season. I've been saying that I like to think of myself as a glass half full kind of guy, but realistically, I've turned into a glass third full kind of guy. But realistically, when we think about where we were an empty glass. We had nothing going on. And relative to the rest of Canada, we are seeing a number of successes here in our region. We also launched a campaign, Heart, Soul, Halifax. This campaign was specifically designed in light of COVID, as we knew that our traditional campaigns were no longer appropriate, they were out of date, and frankly, out of touch with reality. What we were aiming to accomplish was to help boost our community spirit, to show that we are open and safe place to visit, and that we're worth visiting. We did this by focusing on things that are open and showcasing real life examples under COVID. While our overall site traffic is down for the year, this campaign reached over 16 million impressions and had over 82,000 page views. The conversion rate of this campaign was 2 times our normal rate, and the experience pages was about 4 times the average. We believe those individuals who were traveling were relying heavily on this site to help determine what was open and searching for experiences and things to do. On the events side, we've also been hit very deeply with the cancellation of our conferences and major events this year. And the good news in that is that we've had very good success rebooking many of these events, working with our partners at Events East for the future years. I also want to recognize the great leadership from Events East, Carrie and your team as well, from the Hotel Association of Nova Scotia and our many members in the Events Coalition. Again, thinking, this is obviously incredibly hard, but comparing ourselves to what's happening in the rest of the country, we are the first destination in Canada to host business events and meetings again. We can now host 2,000 people in Scotiabank Centre. We're seeing the return of Quebec Major Junior. We're seeing the return of many of our events and sports. And I understand we can book tickets right now to Alan Doyle. So I think they're coming on sale this week, as well as a number of other great shows. We're still a long ways away from where we were, but we are again significantly ahead from the rest of the country. As we approach our phase 3 in our recovery, we want to be thinking about building back better than before. Just before the pandemic hit, we were preparing to launch the region's first tourism master plan. We had spent the last half of 2019 working on this plan in consultation with our industry and our community. And in the coming months, we will be officially releasing the details of the strategy. We did the strategy before COVID, and as we review it now, it is more relevant than I think it was when we entered in. I just want to recognize Group ATN. Ron and his group were lead consultants in this plan. And this plan had really taken a community-first approach to the development of the tourism sector. We weren't trying to develop the tourism sector simply for the industry. We were trying to develop it for the betterment of the community. It was a community-first approach. And that's why I think during the pandemic right now, the recommendations that are in that are so incredibly important and vital. We look forward to sharing the details of the strategy with you in the coming months, so please stay tuned. In closing, I want to leave you with 3 reasons for optimism. First, this will end. We know this will end. There's a strong consensus that this year we should see, or perhaps next year, we should see a vaccine and the start of the rollout. So we know that it is coming. Second, tourism is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And in the longer term, the fundamentals of this industry remain unchanged. And finally, I don't want to minimize that we don't have a long road for recovery, but we have the opportunity before us to build back better than before. We've seen, if anything, in the last 6 months that we can move mountains if we have to. And I think that should be inspiring for us to continue thinking about going forward about our industry, about our community, as well as our economy, how we can do things that we haven't been able to do in the past. Now, I had one slide up here. I don't know if we can get that back or not, but it shows 2 symbols in Chinese for the word crisis. The first symbol represents danger and the second opportunity. And it was John F. Kennedy that said, in a crisis, beware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. And I think that is an incredible opportunity for us right now. And I think bridging maybe into the next discussion. Before I conclude, I just want to say one thing. As the leader of the organization, I get a lot of thanks for the work that's been done. I really just want to recognize my team, the work that we've done. We're short-staffed and double duty right now. So Erica, Jeff, and all of the members of my team, I just want to thank them for the hard work over the last 6 months. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ross, and thank you for your leadership and your team's leadership of the tourism industry in our city, province, and beyond. And I really appreciate our close collaboration over these past many months. I'm now going to invite our panelists to join me on stage. And I'm going to alert you now that we've had so much to talk about. We are running a little bit over time, but we're going to be mindful of your time as we launch into our conversation this morning on Reimagine Halifax. And so I'll ask our panelists to join us up here on stage. And as they make their way to the stage, we have convened our Reimagine Halifax panel to explore how we ensure our city's recovery is inclusive, sustainable, and progressive. Our Halifax Partnership growth goals take us to 2031, but what do we need to do now to ensure that when we're standing in 2031 and look back on this time, we're incredibly proud of what we've accomplished together? So the discussion today will lay the foundation for future events where we will dive deeper and take action on these important areas. Now, each of our esteemed panelists are leaders in our community, working every day to make Halifax a better place to work, live, and play for everyone. It is my honor to introduce them to you. So today we have with us Sarah Napier, President and CEO of United Way Halifax. Irvin Carvery, co-chair of the ANS Road to Economic Prosperity Advisory Committee and director of the Halifax YMCA. Dr. Krista Yangard, President CEO, IWK Health Center, and Winston Morton, Chief Technology Officer, SimpTech Technologies, and Halifax Partnership Board member and committee member of Ad Hoc Development Committee and Audit and Risk Committee. And Winston, thanks so much for all of your service to our organization. So obviously these leaders come with a diverse perspective, but we could not think of 4 better people to represent what our future could look like and where our inputs need to come from. So we're going to start with this question all the way down the line and then see where this conversation takes us. Now, starting with you, Irvin, what were 1 or 2 important issues that were getting your attention before COVID? And how has the pandemic affected the community you represent?
Thank you very much for the question, Wendy, and hello, everyone. You know, I don't have any empirical data in front of me, but if we go to the last census that was taken, you will see in the area of employment, the African Nova Scotian community is heavily weighted in the service industry in that area. So, and we all know that with COVID, as shown by the slides, the real negative impact that COVID had on that industry, which resulted in lots of African Nova Scotians not working. And that exacerbated the problem because also in those same census data, you'll see that unemployment in the African Nova Scotian community is much higher than in the average community. So COVID has had a really hard hit in the African Nova Scotian community. Also, in the area of essential workers, you'll find a lot of African Nova Scotians in that category. So what that meant was that a lot of people contracted COVID itself. So that impact was there. The other real serious area for me was in the area of education. Schools closed down for March break and did not reopen until September. Now, our education department put together an online educational experience for children. They also distributed education plans in the weekly flyers. Well, in my area of the city, in the north end of Halifax, unfortunately, there are a large percentage of people who do not have access to internet. That's an additional $120 a month that they'd much rather spend on food. So they didn't have access to the online learning. The weekly flyers are not delivered in Uniacke Square, Mulgrave Park, or out in the West End, the Bayers Westwood community. So they did not have access to any of that. you look at the statistics from Halifax Regional's Education Center, you'll find that African Nova Scotian students fall far behind the average of the average student in a classroom. So without any type of education or access to education, it's very important for us as they are now headed back to school to monitor the performance of those students, to see what extra help is required, what areas that they lack in which they need those extra resources. So Wendy, those are the two main areas of impact on COVID in my community.
Thank you so much, Irvin. Sarah, what are you seeing from your perspective?
Thanks, Wendy, and good morning, everyone. There are two big umbrella issues that I've been most focused on and that United Way Halifax has been most focused on in the past pre-COVID time, but it's also highly relevant during COVID and also in terms of what's next ahead, and they're big. One is poverty and inequity in our communities, and the second is connection and connections and community and social belonging. So from a poverty point of view, what would have been concerning us before COVID is the extent of individuals who are living below the poverty line within the Halifax Regional Municipality. On average, that's 14% of our population living on a cost of living below the cost of living line. And when you take that perspective to racialized communities, that increases to over 35%. So that speaks a little bit about some of the inequities from a cultural point of view across our region. At the same time, when you take that to a neighborhood lens, there are some neighborhoods that are experiencing rates of over 50% poverty in our communities. So when you think about that, the COVID experience has shone a light on some of those inequities, and that speaks a little bit to what Irvin is talking about. And those are critical issues that we have to be mindful of now and next. In terms of connection, it's really about that social inclusion. How are you connecting with other people? And when we know that pre-COVID, a third of our population has talked about not having a sense of belonging in their communities, it could be argued that we have a loneliness pandemic as well. So what does that mean for people? And then at a time when we've been put in a health pandemic, that's been, again, exacerbated. So what we've been focused on is how are we addressing and helping communities now to build those more equitable systems? And then how are we also investing in organizations to prepare and respond to those community needs? And the response in community has been incredible. In the past few months, United Ways across Atlantic Canada worked with incredible donors and government partners. One donor in particular here from Halifax by the name of Tom Rose helped us start the first COVID relief fund in Canada, here in Atlantic Canada. And that's something to be really proud of as a part of our bubble as well. So over 400 organizations had support to pivot and to be resilient and to make sure that the people that they serve get that help no matter the circumstances. So that's the type of theme that we're most interested in, and what happens next for those issues of poverty, equity, and connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Krista, from your lens at the IWK.
So it's really nice to go after the first two speakers, because I could just stop by saying ditto. You might expect me to talk about health service delivery, and certainly at the IWK we have been very busy, because although we have not had any COVID cases admitted to the IWK, we have had to be ready. And so you have to be just as ready if you have cases than if you don't have cases, and you have to be part of the system. But what I wanted to highlight today was more on the theme of how health is intricately linked to the very things the other speakers have talked about. And one of the things that we've been working on in the past year, even before COVID hit, is to start to think about women and children and the other things that impact their health, not just the health service delivery that we give them. So things like poverty, things like education, things like equity. We know that we saw from the statistics this morning from the economists that this has in fact affected women and children much more differently than it has others. And if you think about the fact that women are going to be at home when school is closed and when daycares are closed, the impact economically of taking all of those women out of the workforce is tremendous. And so as we started to think about issues of equity for women, equity for populations who need to have a different look and a different leg up on where we are in our society, and how starting as healthy children all impacts health. How do we work with our partners? So what COVID has done is it actually has said, taken the Band-Aid off and said, look guys, what you've been talking about for social determinants of health, it's not just something you talk about, it's something very real. And you guys better get out of your health bubble and your service bubble and start working with partners in the community to look at how we can have a better life for our children and leverage the power of women in our economic society. So those are the things, along with all the other health service delivery stuff, at the IWK that we have been working on through this bubble. And the school one was a big one. And getting kids back to school, not being in school is not good for kids. So getting kids back to school and to learning is really important.
Thank you, Krista. And Winston, to round us off on that first question from a green economy and entrepreneurial lens.
Yeah, so it seems like I'm a little bit of a fish out of water here from the social discussion, except I think that, from an economic perspective, we at the partnership, we're kind of looking for these silver linings early in the process of kind of recovery. One of them is climate. And we've seen a tremendous amount of opportunity in alignment before COVID actually was upon us that we could really lead into. And one of them is, environmental opportunity and climate change affects everyone. And we see a lot of opportunity for social innovation. And making sure that if we're going to lean into something, we want to be keeping climate change. From an entrepreneurial perspective, we need a lot of innovation in this space. Most of the supply chains in our energy sector are very old. They need to really ramp up. We see levels of government aligning and collaborating like we've never seen before. We see the federal government and really putting a lot of emphasis on, clean recovery as a core tenet to the economic recovery. We see the province here being leaders in climate goals, and then we see the city, with the passing of Halifax 2050, has a major leadership opportunity in North America. Okay. Major opportunity to lead opportunity in North America, where they've passed in probably one of the most aggressive climate agendas for a city and municipality, and we're just the right size at the right time to take advantage of that. Halifax is actually launching their platform on October 10th, so very timely, through the TEDx Halifax event. It's open to the public, anybody can join in the live streaming. And the Halifax Partnership is really involved in this innovation through our innovation outpost and being engaged with all levels of government. And the last thing is inclusivity. We need to make sure that as we develop these plans, we bring everybody along with us and we get the benefits in the hands of everyone in an equitable way.
Thank you, Winston. I can bring it back to Sarah for a moment, because you mentioned the Atlantic Compassion Fund in your intro remarks. What new need did that fill? And has this been a net positive improvement, or did it fill new gaps created by COVID?
The Atlantic Compassion Fund that I mentioned raised in total in excess of $10 million in Atlantic Canada in a relatively short period of time. And again, organized or supported, over 400 organizations. And these organizations would have been put in a position of, for example, if traditionally they were offering a food program in a community center, that community center was no longer operational, so the program would have pivoted and changed to home delivery to make sure that children were getting the breakfast and the meals that they needed. And it also connected to what Irvin said, the digital divide in Atlantic Canada is incredibly high and inequitable. So what we would have done, for example, would be organizations and people who would be a part of learning organizations or support groups or mental health circles who did not have a computer, a tablet, or even potentially even a phone. We would have bridged the gap in those spaces. So there are some things so people could stay connected. So there's some things that had a lasting impact for sure. But really what it's done is that most of the needs, it's more about it's shone a light on how the impact that generosity can have in our communities. And that's something to be very grateful for. but also that some of the things that we've helped with, such as food, such as shelter, such as nonprofits learning how to, and not learning, pardon me, but determining how to pivot their own even physical spaces to still serve the community. There's so much more that needs to be done. But it's been a wonderful first start, and we just need to be continuing to really support the sector as much as we can, because the nonprofit sector and the programs that are operated really are that underpinning of the quality of life and that social fabric that keeps our communities connected and keeps them well integrated and supportive of one another.
Thank you, Sarah. And Christina, you and I have had a number of conversations about the global outlook on women and children through the WHO and other organizations. What should we here in Halifax consider in our economic recovery to improve the well-being of women and children?
So the millennial goals, as you know, from WHO for women and children have a slogan, every woman, every child, and that no one should be left behind because of their gender or where they're born or who they are. And it's really important because when we think of and we see the statistics, we know, we're doing better in Canada, but we're not at a place where there's actual a level playing field yet. And we know through this, when schools closed and daycares closed, and women had to be home and work from home and be at their kitchen table teaching their kids, doing their job, and running their household, that really puts an unfair burden on women, and it limits the ability to be productive. I mean, most women can multitask, but we need to be able to think about how we support some of those things that allow women to get into the workforce in a reliable way. So, some of the very good things our government has done looking at early education, the preschool, the pre-kindergarten, getting kids into those situations where moms can then be back in the workforce if that's what they choose to do. Our Prime Minister had included in the throne speech the concept that we should not lose the gains women have made in economic equality because of the pandemic. And so thinking about how we get kids in school, get kids properly cared for, make sure there's fallbacks for that so that women can get out, can themselves get an education, and then can participate fully. Lots of good work. I can't remember the actual numbers of if you fully employed women, how much more economic growth and benefit we would have. The other flip side of that is the not so thing that we want to talk about is that there still is an increase in gender-based violence for women and girls. And so thinking about how we address some of those inequities as we move forward, certainly empowering women for education, empowering women economically so that they can earn a living, helps with that as well. And so I think as we start to think at the IWK of our mandate for healthy women and healthy children and no one getting left behind, that's not work we're going to do alone. That's work we're going to do in partnerships. How do we do that with the United Way? How do we do that with the businesses that we work with on a day-to-day basis? And I think those are some of the silver linings. We talked about silver linings that I think bringing to bear and taking the light and saying, hey, this is actually happening. Because in Canada, most people don't know that we slipped year over year in the UNICEF ratings for how well our children are doing. They think our kids are great. What they're not, and they're struggling in a society that is very educated and very wealthy. So the pandemic has shone a light on it. It's now up to us to say, okay, we don't want to, when that light turns off, just go back to the way it was. We do want to keep the silver linings and start to work on them and think about how we can get to that next step. But we need to do it with our partners.
Thank you, Krista. And Irving, you and I spoke at one of the consultations for the ANS Road to Economic Prosperity Action Plan. You shared with me about the importance for inclusive and sustainable change. And what does this mean in the ANX context, and who needs to be involved in making that happen?
Great. I've been in the game for quite some time in terms of my work within the community and particularly within the African Nova Scotian community. And for all the years that I've been, that we, not I, we, because it's been a team of us, have been working, one of the things that was seriously missing was an economic plan. There was never an economic plan for the African Nova Scotian community. And as particularly you folks in this room know, it's economics that gain your independence. And so when I was approached by Carol Ann Wright around the Road to Prosperity plan or project, I immediately said, yes, that's what we need within the African Nova Scotian community. We need a plan. We need to be able to develop our natural resources that we find within our own communities. Nova Scotia is uniquely blessed in that people of African descent have their own communities. And along with those communities come the natural resources that are contained within those communities. We have never had the opportunity to fully take advantage of those. And there are some bright minds, innovative minds in the community who are already thinking forward. For instance, we had discussions with the East Preston Ratepayers Association, and the president of that organization was talking about establishing a recycling plant in East Preston. So when I hear about the work being done in the automotive industry using plastics, automatically I see a connection. I see a supplier that can supply the needs of that industry. Mr. Wilson down on the end down there is going to be an important partner in terms of innovating and working with that community to develop that fully. You know, watching the numbers in the report, the economic report in the Halifax Index, you know, I sat there, I looked at the numbers, I know we're there somewhere, we're in those numbers, but to what degree? So one of the objectives of our committee is to form the African Nova Scotian Index so that we can go inside those numbers in partnership with the partnership to break that out so we have a clear reflection of how we are doing as a whole community. That's very, very important. Nothing gets done unless it's measured. We know that. So this is exciting. This is one of the most exciting things that have happened in a long time. Halifax is taking the lead in terms of its relationship with the African Nova Scotian community. I want to, at this time, thank Mayor Savage and the councillors for supporting this initiative. Even when COVID hit, they continued to support financially the work of this committee. When all departments were asked to cut their budgets because they had to, they seen the importance in the work we're doing and continued to fund it. So to Halifax Regional Council, thank you very much. We really, and to the partnership the partnership has been blessed with Carol Ann Wright working with them. Here's a lady that, I mean, her expertise is beyond question with her community work and her sense of community. So I'm really excited. Halifax is going to lead the way. Canada is going to come running to our door to say, wow, what are you guys doing in Halifax? We want to do it in the rest of the areas of Canada. You know, the stars are aligning. The federal government has announced its support for the African Nova Scotian community. The province with the premier apologizing for past injustices, the work of the Halifax Regional Municipality along with the partnership, the stars are aligning. We're going to shift. We're going to have a shift in the development of people of African Nova Scotian here that has the like of which has not been seen for a very long time. So I'm really excited.
Thank you, Irvin. And as we're at time, but I can't leave you without asking you this on a lightning round, going from Winston towards me. What is the highest priority issue or opportunity to tackle and resolve for your sector or community within the next 10 years? Big question with a short answer. Over to you, Winston.
Short answer, collaboration. I think we've set up the foundation to collaborate and execute. The city is really leading the charge from the point of view of getting stuff done. They use other words sometimes. And I think we just need to stand behind that, lean into it, and we're going to do some great things.
Thank you, Krista.
I guess I would say women and children matter, and they're part of the solution. And so thinking more broadly of health in all its parts. Health makes you more able to participate and makes you a better economic partner. And so let's put some thought about how women and children matter.
Thank you. Sarah?
I think I would mention inclusive growth. I think we have such an amazing community and there's so much to be grateful for. And there's also, and you've heard the mayor talk about this many times, as have others, including myself, that we want a city that is fully prosperous and not one that only has pockets of prosperity where some are engaged in that opportunity. So that inclusivity of a vision of a city where there's more opportunity for everyone, and that we're all committed to that and have accountability to make that kind of action stick.
Thank you. And Irving?
Well,
Last word.
I just want to really quickly, and I never had an opportunity to, but to thank my fellow panelists here, and particularly Sarah, for the partnership that we built with the United Way in terms of the YMCA. I'm not sure if people are aware of that, but the United Way was able to channel Chromebooks through our immigrant services program throughout Halifax, which has facilitated our ability to continue to service our immigrant community here in Halifax. So I just want to thank you for that, Sarah. And to IWK, if you want to go to a place where you see women in action, and women in command, and women who rule, it's the IWK. All the way from the staff to the patients. Because I was to the IWK, I had a pre-born in my grandchild. And when I walked in there, I was, I think, thirdly, not secondly, I was thirdly. And so it's there that you get inspiration on really what can and will take place with women. I come from a family that was, I was raised by my mom. My dad was a Rolling Stone. So it came from my mother, who was a mother, who had a job, who took in work, who was a provider, who was a nurturer. So I understand the importance and the power of women, and we need more women. The dialogue becomes so much better when women are included. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Irving, Winston, Krista, Sarah, Irving. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and expertise. Thank you for setting the foundation for our conversations as we reimagine Halifax coming out of the COVID economic crisis. And I'll invite you to stay seated as I introduce again, Chair of Halifax Partnerships Board of Directors, Mr. Ron Lesbros, to say some concluding remarks. Cheers.
Well, you've been a very patient audience. Thank you very much. It's been, from my perspective, a delightful morning. This conversation around reimagining Halifax has really unfolded in a way that we hoped that we would. And for me, there's been a wonderful balance here this morning. One of the themes that has come through very clearly is that whole issue of social innovation and inclusivity. And each of the speakers spoke to those issues with, I think, great aplomb and very, very well. I was struck, Pat Ryan's advice for business was great, but what really stuck with me was the way he talked about his team, and Pat, that empathy and that understanding and the leadership around making sure that you're supporting your team on the way through. And Ross, I was struck with, you know, when we think about as we go to restaurants or as we go in the community to tourist destinations and you see the sparse numbers and so forth, and the people at the front lines, the businesses that are operating the tourism sector, the people who are working in the tourism sector, hugely impactful as a result of that. And so that was a really helpful insight into some of the challenges that that sector continues to face. And this panel for me was really very, very powerful. I think And what's, I think, reinforcing for me is that what COVID has done is it's opened this dialogue, because in past partnership annual general meetings, the focus has almost exclusively been on the economic side. It's almost exclusively been on the business side, innovation, all of those things, entrepreneurship, all very important. But at the same time, what we're seeing is the need for bringing those two things to the middle, the social dimension, the economic dimension, and making sure that we're creating healthy communities. So for all of those out in virtual land, I hope you've stuck with us to the end. I hope that it has been a good experience. I know a lot of us at the end of the day of Zoom calls are pretty exhausted, and I know it's been a long time. And for those who are here, it's a delight to actually be having an in-person meeting. We need to do more of this. And to our 3 new board members, we really look forward to working with you. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to the panel. And Wendy, thanks for a great job. Thank you.